The year was 1985. The first mobile phone call in Britain was made by Ernie Wise to Vodafone, VH1 made its broadcasting debut, and Symbolics.com was registered, making it the first internet domain name. Michael Jackson bought ATV Music, including the Beatles' entire catalog, for $47 million. Microsoft Windows 1.0 was released, and Walt Disney World in Florida welcomed its 200 millionth guest. To celebrate, Disney's Buena Vista Distribution released a film which introduced young moviegoers to a whole new source of nightmare fuel. But Ryan never saw it. Until now. This is Movies I Missed, 1985, Episode 6, Return to Oz.
I'm Justin Munoz.
And I'm Ryan Miller.
This is Movies I Missed, 1985, Episode number 6. Today we're talking about the film Return to Oz, released June 21st, 1985, the running time of 1 hour and 53 minutes. I want to give a warning that we will be discussing all aspects of this movie. That includes spoilers. Return to Oz is a 1985 fantasy film directed by Walter Murch, starring Fairuza Balk as Dorothy Gale. Set months after her first trip to Oz, Dorothy is sent to a psychiatric hospital for delusions, but soon escapes and finds herself back in a ruined, desolate Oz. With the Emerald City in ruins and her old friends turned to stone, she embarks on a perilous journey to defeat the wicked Gnome King and the sinister Princess Mombi. Joined by a new group of allies, Dorothy must uncover her own courage and restore the magic of Oz before it's lost forever.
Tell me who you are and why you have come all the way to my kingdom and what I can do to make you happy.
It must be the Gnome King.
Where is he? I don't see anybody.
My name is Dorothy Gale, Your Majesty. And these are my friends, Tick-Tock, Jack, and the Gump.
Not the Dorothy Gale from Kansas.
Yes, Your Majesty. We've come to ask you to release the Scarecrow and to restore the Emerald City.
You believe that I have stolen something, Dorothy, and you want me to give it back.
Yes, Your Majesty.
So if someone steals something, you think the right thing is for them to give it back.
Yes, Your Majesty.
And what if they don't want to? Give it back.
Well, then we are here with our army to conquer you and force you to give it back.
Couple of plugs before we get started. We do have a website, moviesimiss.com. You can listen to all the episodes there. We have links to the different places that you could subscribe to the show. We're also on Instagram and on YouTube at Movies I Missed Podcast for both of those. So make sure you are subscribed and are following us there. All right, Ryan, Return to Oz. This was your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting one. I had never seen it. Honestly, this wasn't a movie that I grew up even knowing about. I didn't really know much about Return to Oz. It kind of, and we'll talk about why, because it kind of came and went. So I wasn't really, it was just not part of my lexicon growing up. And yeah, what about for you? Was this something that you feel like was out there that you'd always missed, or was it just kind of like, let's add it to the list?
It's not a movie that I ever knew about or was interested in or anything, especially when I was younger. But I would say sometime in the past decade, I found a list on Letterboxd that somebody made, and it's called Kinder Trauma. And it's basically a list that's composed of movies that are made for kids, but actually have creepy or weird or nightmarish stuff in them. Mm-hmm. And this movie was mentioned. And then just over the years on Instagram or Imager or Tumblr, I've seen little GIFs and videos and pictures of some of the the Wheeler characters in this that are really weird with long arms, and they have these wheels that they roll around on, or even Tick-Tock and the bed, the sofas cobbled together with a moose head. just like weird images. And when I saw it as a movie that came out in 85, I was like, I'd like to finally see this thing. Because frankly, classic, storybook fairy tale stuff like this isn't necessarily my cup of tea. And I'm not like some huge fan of the original Wizard of Oz. Like
that's what I wanted to get at. Yeah, before I keep going, but what is your feelings about Oz, the original Wizard of Oz?
I assume I've seen the entire movie.
Oh my gosh! So you don't have a great love for
no.
the
I
Wizard
mean,
of Oz.
I've definitely seen parts of it. Like I want to say, when I would spend time, my sister and I at my grandmother's house, there were certain videos that she had that we would watch. Like I remember we watched Hook a lot at her house. She had this old kind of musical film called Seven Brides for Seven Brothers that we used to watch a lot, that I have like a weird nostalgia for.
Sure.
And I feel like she probably had this. I know she had like E.T. So I think I've probably seen it all the way through. When I say this, I mean The Wizard of Oz, the original. I'm pretty sure I've seen it all the way through, but probably not since I was like 7 or 8, maybe. But it's one of those things where just pop culturally it's significant, and I've probably absorbed the entire film through osmosis, over the years. But no, I don't have any great love of The Wizard of Oz. I'm not into the lore. I've never read any of the books. I've never even read any of the like comic book adaptations. Anytime I see like, oh, there's a new fan film or a new comic book that's like Wizard of Oz, but the characters are badass or whatever, like I have no interest. Mainly, I was just curious about this because it's a thing made for kids that has like weird animatronic creatures and things in it, and I was curious about that.
Yeah. Watching it, we'll talk all about it, but I miss the 80s, dude. Like the time when kids' movies could be scary. Like, I don't know. It just kind of the nostalgia of that was definitely something for me when watching this movie. It's like, man, they were not afraid to like scare the shit out of kids. I loved it. I love that.
It just
stuff.
came part and parcel with like fairy tales and stuff once upon a time.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
And now like people are just afraid of it. I don't know.
Yeah, we gotten soft, really. When we were kids, we would go to the library and rent VHSs and stuff. And I don't know if you remember this, but I think Shelley Duvall had like nursery story, not nursery rhymes, but like Three Little Pigs and like all these like fairy tale stories that she'd get to reenact with like actual actors. Like for example, she did the Three Little Pigs, and I want to say Jeff Goldblum played the big bad wolf in that. And
the party was born to play, baby.
It was awesome. They were great and they were scary. Because a lot of those are like, like I'm going to blow your house down and I'm going to eat you. And it's like, there's just a lot of stuff from the 80s that was happening where it's like, we're trying to scare you from everything. I don't know. Fairy tale theater is what it was called. And again, it has this sort of like,
never seen it.
Oh man, it was excellent. Even stuff like Fraggle Rock kind of creeped me out. And I know they're not creepy, but I don't know. There's just something creepy about those 80s properties that I really miss.
All
right. As far as cast and crew goes, this was directed by someone named Walter Murch. So he's got an interesting filmography. This was I think one of two things that he directed. He was for the movie THX 1138 by George Lucas. He did the sound and was one of the writers. He did the sound for The Godfather. He did the sound for American Graffiti. He did editing and sound for Apocalypse Now. He was editing and sound for Ghost, for English Patient, Talented Mr. Ripley, Cold Mountain, Jarhead, K9 the Widowmaker. He was the editor and the sound designer for all of those movies. This was like one of his only movies that he directed. I think his other direction was an episode of Clone Wars, I want to say, for an animated TV series, but has been in the industry for a long time and worked on a lot of like really, really notable stuff. So there, you can't have much of a an opinion on the guy as far as what he directed, because this was it. And then the other notable crew was David Watkin was the cinematographer. He was the cinematographer of the Beatles' Help movie and for Moonstruck. And then he won an Oscar for a movie that also came out in 1985, Out of Africa. So, yeah, not much to say about that, I guess, because, again, they haven't really, they didn't really do much.
Walter's been involved with some noteworthy movies, but it's just weird for, like, he's directed one film and it just happened to be this one.
Yeah. As far as cast goes, it's, a lot of voice actors in this one because of the nature of the characters that are being played. Fairuza Balk is the lead as Dorothy Gale. She's obviously known for, like, The Craft and American History X, and she was in The Waterboy. And she's always been, like, the witch, basically, as far as I've known her. And she even has kind of that look to her. I don't know. She just kind of looks witchy. And
I think she looks pretty normal as a little girl in this. Like,
totally.
She has a very unique face with, like, unique features. And she, like, when she got older, she looked like she was, like, an alt chick, or like she might be kind of dangerous or something. Yeah. But as a kid, she, she looks like a normal kid. Not to say she's, like, abnormal, but, like, she has a unique face, and I don't really feel like I could see that as when she was a kid. She just looked like a normal kid. I thought she looked
like Fairuza Balk, but I thought I thought she was really good in this movie. I liked her quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I thought she, as far as, like, a child actor, I thought she did a really good job. The hard part for her is The Wizard of Oz is, like, the biggest movie of all time. And the star of that is one of the biggest stars of all time, right? Like, it's everyone's, that's what this movie kind of has going against it, is it's compared to The Wizard of Oz. Whether you like it or not, you can't deny the success of one of the biggest movies of all time, right? Like,
yeah. Here would be my question. And I don't know if you know the answer to this in, like, the research that you did or whatever. Did they ever make a sequel to Wizard of Oz before this, or was this, like, Hollywood's first attempt? Like, hey, that first one was really popular. Why don't we do another?
This was the first attempt.
That's kind of wild. I mean,
yeah, it was 50 years later.
Yeah, like, back then, it's not necessarily like the studio system it is now, where, like, oh shit, John Wick made money. Quick, 4 more. But I mean, you would have thought something that's, like, that popular, at least I assume, made, like, a lot of money back when it first came out. Like, it's a little surprising that they wouldn't have done more. According
to the Wikipedia page for The Wizard of Oz, the first official sequel was an animated movie called Journey Back to Oz, with Liza Minnelli as the voice, who is Judy Garland's daughter. And there was, like, it looks like plays and theater or television, but
like an actual,
as far as
film
goes, you have the 1939 original. There is a black and white Soviet adaptation in 1967, a low budget children's film adaptation in 1969, the animated in 1972, The Wiz in 78, which is not really a sequel. And then, this was the first.
Like, it sounds like a bunch of those were probably, like, new takes on the original, but this is like the first time they tried to do what happened next.
Right. And what's weird about this one, or not weird is not the right word. What's interesting about this one is this one felt like it's trying to adapt the books more. It's trying to do a mix, because the Ruby Slippers aren't a part of the book. The Ruby Slippers were specifically the MGM movie. In the original book, I think they're like silver slippers or something like that. If you've seen Wicked, which I have, just recently came out last year, which is also a sequel to and prequel to The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy has silver slippers. Like, they don't use the red ruby slippers. I bring that up because Disney had to pay a large fee to use the ruby slippers created for the original film. So
yeah, so I know a little bit about, like, the weird lawsuit stuff, because not super long ago I was listening to a podcast series about the films of Sam Raimi, and he made Oz the Great and Powerful. And there was something about like the studio that made the original Wizard of Oz. There's like certain things, like visual interpretations of things that are like copyrighted. So like Sam Raimi and whatever studio did Oz the Great and Powerful, they could do a story involving all those characters and stuff, but like the Wicked Witch couldn't look the same as the Wicked Witch in like the original 30s movie. Like she had to be a different tone of green and weird stuff like that. Like they could have all that stuff, but it just couldn't look the same. It's kind of like how Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster, they did the classic Universal movie with Boris Karloff, and the makeup that they designed for him with kind of the flat top and like the scars and everything. Like other people could make Frankenstein movies. You just weren't allowed to make him look like that. So that's why like when Hammer Studios in the UK started doing their Frankenstein movies in like the 60s, the first two, Frankenstein's monster looks nothing like the Boris Karloff version. And then by the time they did the third one, The Evil of Frankenstein, they worked out some kind of licensing deal where like Universal would release the Hammer ones in the US or something. So they suddenly had the rights to use the Boris Karloff look if they wanted. So suddenly in the third Hammer Frankenstein movie, the monster, it's not exact, but it looks a lot closer to the Boris Karloff. Something weird like that, where like you can do it, you just can't do it exact with a lot of the stuff.
Like, so Oz, I think or the Wizard of Oz is public domain, I think. And so you can use all those characters, but then when you make a certain version of it, like the red ruby slippers or whatever, you can't. That stuff gets copyrighted or whatever. And so that's basically what's happening here.
But with this one, so who made the original in the 30s?
MGM.
And this one, Return, was made
Disney.
by not them? Disney, okay.
Yeah, Disney, yeah.
So, like, I was thinking to myself, you know, this is obviously a different interpretation and whatever, but, like, when you see the Cowardly Lion or the Scarecrow or the Tin Man,
look so different.
They look nothing like the original, Like the lion is actually like a quadruped that looks like just a cartoony version of a lion, not like a man in a lion costume, for example.
And so this movie straddles the line as a sequel to both the film and the books, because obviously the characters look a lot different than they do in the movies, right? The ruby slippers aren't in the books, but they are in the film. So it's a sequel, you know what I mean? Like,
they were probably trying to do things like the slippers as close to the original movie as possible, because that's what more people would visually identify with. So like if they're going to have a lion that looks different, it's still like, well, there's only one lion in the movie, but like the slippers, if they were suddenly silver, everyone's used to the red slippers. It would probably be even more confusing for people than this movie potentially already was.
Right. And then, you know, the big thing, Dorothy's way younger in this. I don't know how old Judy Garland was when she made the original Wizard of Oz, but she's definitely older than what Veruza Balk. Like Veruza Balk looks like she's like 10 or 11, right?
Yeah.
And Dorothy.
Yeah, that hadn't really occurred to me, but you're right.
Dorothy looked like she was like 16 or 17 or something. So definitely playing with like the idea of it being a sequel to the movie and the books in a weird kind of way that I think kind of didn't please anyone. I think it just sort of like kind of upset everyone, as opposed to leaning one direction or the other, like either trying to go just as an adaptation of the books. It's an adaptation of, I think, the second and third Oz books.
I believe that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, Veruza Balk is Dorothy Gale. And then I'm just going to list these names because I don't know if you know who they are, but like Nicole Williamson was Dr. J.B. Worley or the Gnome King.
I believe he was Cogliostro in the Spawn movie.
Was he?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Jean Marsh was Nurse Wilson, and Mombi, again, couldn't pick her out of the lineup.
I mean, I didn't know just from looking at her, but when I read it, I realized she's Bev Morta in Willow, if people are familiar with.
I've never seen Willow, yeah.
Oh, what year did that come out? Maybe we'll have to do that year.
Yeah. Pons Mar as the lead wheeler. And the only reason I put him on, because I found this little anecdote about him, is he played and did the voice for the Noid from Domino's Pizza. Do you remember the Noid?
I remember the Noid.
Oh,
you
man,
want to avoid the Noid, buddy.
Totally got to avoid the Noid. No idea what it had to do with pizza and Domino's, but was definitely the mascot. And I want to say he had like video games and everything, but
yeah, there were toys and stuff.
Avoid the Noid. Again, just some names. Denise Breyer was Belina. Sean Barrett is TikTok. Brian Henson is Jack Pumpkinhead.
I mean, you know Brian Henson, right? Jim Henson's son.
Jim Henson. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
He has like an actual part as one of the characters in Labyrinth. Most of his work has just been puppeteering.
Sure, that makes sense.
He's the voice and probably did puppeteering on Jack in this movie.
Man, was Jack Pumpkinhead the inspiration for Skellington?
I mean, very possibly.
It looks.
It's
I
even
just kept
like
thinking of.
Yeah, he's tall and lanky with the big head, and I mean, Jack Skellington is a skeleton, but he's the Pumpkin King. So, yeah,
it felt very very much like
for
an
sure.
influence.
Yeah,
Piper Laurie as Auntie M.
You know her though, right? She's the mother in Carrie.
Never seen it.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, she's famous.
I mean, I know Carrie, but
yeah, she's like the super religious mother who like locks her in a closet and gets her comeuppance.
Okay, kind of playing the same role in this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, she's not straight up evil in this. She's just like misguided, like people in those years were. They heard that electricity was involved, and they were like, "Oh, that'll cure all your ails."
Yeah,
we'll just strap you down to a table and fire electrodes through your head. But I couldn't believe that the plot of this movie takes off with, "Hey, the first half hour is going to be about how we're going to take this child to an asylum and hook her up to one of those things that they like tortured women with when they spoke out of turn in the 50s."
It's crazy. It's crazy. And then finally, Matt Clark is Uncle Henry. I don't remember. I could like Auntie M. I feel like is a very recognizable name if you've seen The Wizard of Oz. I don't think she ever calls out for her uncle in the movie, so I don't know if I remembered who he was or if was even in the original. But yeah,
I don't know.
No idea who this guy was either.
I saw that he was in a bunch of stuff. He's in like a ton of like old westerns and things.
Yeah.
He's hardly in this movie.
So where do you want to start with this one? This one's interesting. I just gotta say, man, visually, I really love the movie. I loved the effects in this movie, especially how much claymation is used. Like,
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to talk about anything else. We could spend the next 30 minutes talking about the stop motion animation and just be done with it. Because holy shit, I was not even prepared for that. Like all the imagery that I had seen on like social media and stuff that I mentioned that made me curious about this was like TikTok, the weird robot, or the Wheeler characters, or the flying sofas like I talked about, or Jack like Pumpkinhead, or the queen or whatever that runs around with her head off. But when we meet the Gnome King at the end, I mean, they sprinkle it out a little bit. There's like rocks that like have faces on them that are spying on them throughout the movie.
That was super awesome. The first time I saw it, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, same. I was like, this is super cool. And then at the end, when you find out that the quote unquote Gnome King, he's like, it's like he's this living entity inside of rocks. And he can appear on the surface of any rock. And so like the end of the movie takes place in this big cave, and he just like appears on the wall. And he can like move around and like change his shape, and like almost all of it is stop motion animated, and it's fucking incredible. Like you could put all the CG on the planet into this movie, and I wouldn't think it was as cool looking as the stop motion Gnome King in this movie. Holy cow. It's gorgeous. It's incredible. Yeah, the lip sync is fantastic. They didn't like shirk their efforts at all. It's amazing looking, and there's tons of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot of it. So like the rocks keep reporting back to the Gnome King in the scene where like the rock's face will very animatedly express what's going on and tell like, oh, Dorothy's back or whatever like that. And it's one thing to like even do the animation, the stop motion claymation animation that they're doing there is impressive. But they have these caustic lights like bouncing back and forth and off the rocks in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they did that. Like, it's incredible because the way light moves isn't like that's a very natural way for light to move. And to do that in stop motion takes the ultimate skill. Like, it's incredible the way the light moves off. Even when we start seeing the Gnome King and he becomes more and more human, because there's a moment when he, it is actually played with a human.
Yeah, it's an actor with like makeup on. It still looks really cool.
Yeah,
like,
and that stuff is really cool. But there's moments where he's like just about to be human, and he's still rock, and it's like, again, the detail and the look and everything about it is so good.
Because it's even like, if you think about classic stop motion animation in a lot of things like King Kong or even like A Nightmare Before Christmas, you have characters which have like an armature and you're moving them around and it's painstaking work. And then a lot of times for like, movies like Kubo and the Two Strings, or again, Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever, for the main characters,
not Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare Before Christmas. Sorry. They'll have like for Jack Skellington, like a couple hundred heads and like parts of heads for every single like mouth shape and eye movement combination and whatever. And they have to keep those cataloged and keep switching them out. And that's a hell of a lot of work already. But in this case, it's literally like a block of clay that they are sculpting every frame to make every mouth movement and facial expression and hand gesture. It's like a living piece of artwork.
It's not slight movements. It's extreme cartoonish faces, which are awesome. They look so
like,
cool.
It's not super jittery, like it's obviously stop motion animation, but it's so fluid. It is mind-blowingly incredible. Like, as that end sequence was going on and on with so many shots of him in the rock, I started to think to myself, how much lead time did they have on this movie? This had to have taken years to do. Mm-hmm. It was just incredible. Like, the rest of the movie, I could not even, worry about. Just the stop motion animation is it's like the justification for this movie existing, regardless of anything else about it.
The stop motion is really good. There's just the visual effects, honestly, through it all. Like the headless scene is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
The visual effects are definitely the star of this show. I watched these guys called the Corridor Crew. They do visual effects reacts videos. I subscribe to them. I think they're awesome. And just recently on an episode, they broke down this movie and kind of show how a lot of the stuff was done, behind the scenes stuff. And it is incredible. Just the amount of work for some of the stuff that you don't even notice for a 1985 movie where you have no computer work it's nuts. Like there's one scene where the witch or whatever she is holding her head by the side of her body, and she then lifts the head up towards like she's going to put it on, and you're watching that and you're like, how do you do that? Because there's like the dress and like you have to paint out below her head, and then they kind of break it down on how they do it, and it's like incredible. They actually have the actress that's the head have her dress match where the dress would be on the person standing behind her. So it's like all these like illusions, like trickeries of the eye. And I love that stuff that they do. That's like, you don't notice it. They don't have to do that nowadays because of computers, and they have to like figure out how to put all this stuff together so that you're not even thinking about it. And that the movie is filled with this stuff. To me, it's incredible. It was incredible as far as like what I was seeing visually and special effects wise, especially not just for 1985, but even by today's standards. I think some of the stop motion animation was incredible.
The whole thing is an incredible work of art. It's just like not to take anything away from the original Wizard of Oz, but that definitely felt more just like, people in like kind of baggy costumes or whatever. And there were so many more inhuman creatures, and the design of everything wasn't just like, here are houses that are like maybe brightly colored. Like everything is just like stylized to the nth degree. And like just TikTok, watching him walk around and even like watching him walk upstairs. And I'm like, I don't know who's inside of this thing, but like, how does he not tumble over and crash and burn every time he tries to move? Because like the legs are they're really far apart. His body is so small. So I guess maybe there's a little person inside, but then it feels like depending on the size of their body, like, is it like a little person that has really long legs that they found, or like, how did it work?
Again, I really recommend watching the Corridor Crew video because they really break this down. There's a regular sized guy in there. He's bent over completely. His head is down, like in his crotch,
Jesus.
basically. And he's controlling the arm motions with these little, so he's got like, it's almost like you cross your arms and bend down, put your head in your lap, and you're walking like in that weird way, and then he controls his arms with like little levers, and then the head is remote controlled. It's incredible to see the guy in there. Like,
yeah, just that somebody could be bent up
nuts.
like that inside of this thing where they can't see and still be able to walk upstairs without biting it is amazing. And then like Jack, just like incredible like motion, like he has kind of the same big strides and lanky movements that Jack Skellington does in Nightmare on Elm Street, or Nightmare Before Christmas. How many times am I going to do that? But then just like even his finger motions, like as he's talking and doing stuff, his fingers are constantly moving, and I just kept watching his hands, and it's like they didn't go to the extreme of trying to animate like Jack's face, which would have been a whole undertaking itself. Him and like the Scarecrow, some of these characters, they just have like a fixed facial expression. Their eyes don't move. Or in Jack's case, he doesn't really have eyes. He's just got hollow cavities, but like his mouth doesn't move. So they're not like syncing his lips, but like everything else about his body is like hypnotizing to watch. Even just like from scene to scene, I found myself trying to determine, is that the real chicken or is that the chicken puppet?
Yeah, I was just about to bring up the chicken.
Good.
The chicken looked so good. So when it starts speaking, obviously, you know that it's a fake one, because that's when the fake starts to become aware. You become aware of how fake the mouth moves, because that's not how chickens move. But the actual chicken itself looked so real. It was crazy.
There's plenty of scenes where it's not like talking or whatever, where I was looking at it, I'm like, all right, which is this? Is that the real chicken or not?
If she's holding it, it's not the real chicken. But actually, I think there's some scenes.
There's plenty of times when she's holding a real chicken for sure.
There's, from what I was reading, like most of the time she couldn't hold the chicken because it was too big. But yeah, the actual chicken was super impressive.
There's a episode of Seinfeld that you'll probably recall where Kramer gets into cockfighting, and he's got a pet chicken, and there's a scene where he's supposed to have the chicken on a leash, and he's like walking it like a dog down the street, and there's bloopers that you can watch of Kramer trying to walk with this chicken, and it just will not do what he wants, and he finally just picks it up out of frustration. He's like, can I just be carrying it? So that gives you an idea. Like, people say don't work with children or animals. There's plenty of movies with like trained dogs and cats. I don't know if it's possible really to train a chicken aside from like throwing some food where you want it to be and having it walk that direction. But a chicken is a main character in this movie. And yes, there are parts of it where it's a fake chicken. But the fact that they even decided to go ahead with a chicken character that was going to be real, even like only 40% of the time, and they put themselves through that, is commendable.
Yeah.
Just imagining having to fucking wrangle that goddamn chicken.
Yeah.
And get it to do what they wanted it to do. It's insane.
I think we do have to talk a little about the story. So it picks up after...
No, only special effects.
It picks up 6 months after the original Oz, or her original time in Oz, and she can't sleep, and her aunt and uncle's solution is take her to the doctor we can't afford and shock the shit out of her so that she'll go back to normal. So they take her there, and then she gets released by a magical picture lady in the mirror, right? I can't remember exactly. Right? Yeah. So for some reason, she's like trapped in the mirror in Oz, but she can sometimes be in the real world. It's all magic, so you can't really use logic to explain this stuff. But there's a storm, and they go into a river, and she goes down the river, and then it ends up in Oz. The one thing that I think the books do differently than the movies is make it clear that Oz is a real place and it's not just a dream world or dreamland. And the original one for sure, and this one pushes into that idea as well, where like when she wakes up again, she's just was in the river the whole time. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely a question of whether it's just a big dream or not.
So you're saying that Dorothy potentially has been getting into Uncle Henry's stash of wacky tobacco?
Yeah, she's on LSD is basically what's happening. That's neither here nor there. So she gets to Oz. Oz is in ruins. It's been taken over by the Gnome King, who is like trapping everyone in stone. And I think his goal is to become human. And he does this by turning people into ornaments. I think that's what it is.
I don't, unless there was a line of dialogue I missed because I was just so in awe of the animation. I don't remember him ever mentioning wanting to be human.
Well, every time someone becomes an ornament, right? Like he plays the game with them at the end where they got to guess where the scarecrow is amongst the ornaments. And every time someone makes a wrong guess and becomes an ornament, he becomes more and more human.
I guess I hadn't made the connection because he already has so many fucking ornaments and he still looked like a rock.
Right. So I don't
until
know
they
exactly.
showed up.
I think it has something to do with Dorothy. I don't know. But he becomes more and more human as her friends turn into ornaments. All the other stuff, like she gets trapped by the queen who has different heads. And she has a group of warriors with her that are called the
Wheelers.
The Wheelers, who are kind of like flying, like replacements for the flying monkeys in a way.
I imagine like looking at those guys, I was like, are these all just like French street performers that they got?
Yeah,
like all
totally.
These weirdos with like colored hair and like crazy dreadlock things, and they're wearing like baggy clothes and have like these long arm extensions with wheels on their hands and feet.
It just reminded me of the Warriors a bunch. Like I was just ready for like Wheelers come out and play. And so the Gnome King's turned, her old friends, the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion into stone. Everyone in Oz is in ruin, and Dorothy's got to kind of fix it. Along the way, she has 4 new friends now. She's instead of Toto, she's got the chicken. Instead of the Tin Man, she has TikTok, who I really liked. I really liked TikTok. He was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Cool design.
Yeah, you wind him up. He's got 3 different like winders. Is a speech, a thought, and an actions basically. And so they kind of have to keep winding him or he doesn't function. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's just interesting from a design standpoint that like the Tin Man classically is depicted as being like tall and lanky. Yeah. And then TikTok is short and round and stumpy.
I just appreciated coming off of The Wizard of Oz that it was more wacky.
Yeah.
Wacky's not the right word, but just more odd. Like the Scarecrow, instead of being a guy dressed up as a scarecrow, is Jack Skellington, right? Or Pumpkinhead. Jack Pumpkinhead. And he's got this giant pumpkin head and straw arm. You know what I mean? Like it's just so much weirder. And the Tin Man, instead of being a guy wearing silver aluminum suit,
trash can and a funnel basically, is this oddly shaped round mechanical dude, right? Partially animatronic. Like I love that when he talks he doesn't have a mouth, it's just the 2 bits of his mustache move.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And then, like, instead of the Cowardly Lion, there's this freakish moose head thing. I don't even know what that
It's
was.
kind of weird.
Like,
It's like they have this magical dust that if you sprinkle it on an inanimate object, it brings it to life. So they take like a couple of sofas, tie them together, stick some palm fronds into it like wings, and then pull... I forget what they call it, but basically like a green moose head off the wall, strap it to the front, sprinkled this dust on all of it, and all of a sudden all these inanimate objects become a living thing with a moose head who just wants to be left alone. And they keep making him fly around.
Like they make him fly and they want him to turn. He's like, I can't turn. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then like he keeps losing body parts and he's just ahead at some point.
It's just so weird. I love how weird it is. I really enjoyed the fact that they went out there for it, and it's not just people in like cat costumes or something. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the kind of thing where, like, you know, that's like if you go back to like the 1930s, like what they accomplished with the original is probably like mind blowing for the time and like so unique. But then in the 80s, just look what they were able to do.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if they made another sequel now, it would just be all fucking CG. So it's, you know, people are utilizing the tools that they have at the time. And in the 80s, they had the tools to do like crazy puppets and animatronics.
TikTok, though, is just so cool. The fact that they actually got him to move around and stuff and talk. And I don't know. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
There's something else that as I'm watching this, I'm like, past me would be upset that so many weird things are happening and no one acknowledges the weird stuff. That's just the world.
Well, all these people except for Dorothy live in that world, so it's not weird to them, right?
Yeah, but even for Dorothy, she's like, you know, the Pumpkinhead starts talking to her and she's just okay with it. And he's like, can I call you Mom?
We've already established that she's on like
LSD,
mind-enhancing drugs.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, past me would get upset or like, how come no one explains this or tries to like understand it, or I don't know. I feel like in the past I would be more upset about it, and now I'm just like, yes, yeah, just go with it. I just go with this world and just be a part of it. I don't know. I just was ready to accept it, and so yeah, they get captured by the witch, and then they fly their way on their weird ass moose head couch guy to the Gnome King.
And if you fall in the sand in the desert, you turn to sand and blow away, which is pretty fucking creepy.
It was super creepy, and then we got to see it. Like one of the wheelers gets turned into sand, and that was awesome. I thought that was also really cool too. Like they formed him into sand and then let him fall apart.
And then he crumbles apart and starts to blow away in the wind.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Trees grow lunch pails. I thought that was kind of cool. And then in the end, you know, she saves the day. She finds this. The Gnome King did a terrible job of hiding who he, like the important ornaments, because everything there was just green. Like, come up with a better. She figured it out, and it worked out.
I also love that the villain is taken out by a heretofore unestablished rule that eggs are poison to gnomes, and the chicken is hiding inside Jack's head and lays an egg, and it rolls out the eyeball and right down the Gnome King's gullet.
Yeah,
like,
that was
what the hell?
Yeah, so
in the moment, I was like, how the fuck are they going to get out of this? And, you know, give me 100 guesses. I never would have said spare egg.
The witch kept saying, like, we got to tell him about the chicken, or what's, you know, get the chicken or something like that.
And they did mention that the Gnome King, like, banned all chickens or something.
Yeah.
From the land.
But didn't know that it was because eggs are, you know, poison. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, all of it is silly. All of it is ridiculous. I got to tell you, man, I had a really good time watching this movie. I know the movie, we'll talk about like the review and the box office and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the weirdness. I thought Veruza Balk was really good as Dorothy. I found her charming. You know, her just being a part of this world it felt natural. I loved the different characters like Pumpkinhead and TikTok, and I just thought they were a lot of fun. And then the special effects just kind of put it over the edge where it's like, this is just cool. Like I really enjoyed what I'm watching. It was quite a surprise.
Yeah. I was constantly blown away by the visuals in the movie. Like, I can't I can't necessarily say that like the story or whatever did a whole lot for me, but just
I know, but it does enough to keep you captive. Like for me,
yeah,
at least,
I mean, it
enough.
does its job, but
Yeah.
like without like amazing special effects, the story's basically just like a non-starter is basically what I'm getting
Sure.
at. But like
Sure.
you know, there's a visual element to film, and everything about that was a win for me. So, you know, can't say that about a ton of movies.
For sure. Well, let's talk about the box office. Budget for this one was $28 million. So
what they could do with that amount of money in the 80s.
Yeah, it's
I
hard
mean,
to
that's
think
pretty
what that-
high budget, I feel, for a movie back then.
Yeah, what would 28 million? Let me see. What was this 28 million in 1985 compared to now? I don't know. What would be your guess?
It's probably like triple that now.
So, according to in2013dollars.com, $28 million in 1985 is equivalent to purchasing about 82 million today.
So going on quadruple.
Yeah. So 28 million, quite a bit. The box office for this movie was $11.1 million. So bombed pretty hard. It debuted in 1,200 theaters on June 21st. It grossed $2.8 million at number 7, behind Cocoon in its first week, Rambo First Blood Part 2 in its 5th week, The Goonies in its 3rd week, Life Force in its 1st week, Fletch in its 4th week, and Prizzy's Honor. It's been a few weeks, so I forgot how to say it. Prizzy's Honor in its 2nd week. So
just look at that lineup, man. There is a movie there for everybody. You got Cocoon, which is like a feel-good sci-fi movie. You got Rambo, which is like a balls-out action film. You got The Goonies, which is like a kid's classic. You got The Fletch, if you just want like a straight-up comedy. You got Life Force, which is like a completely bananas sci-fi horror movie. And then you got Prizzy's Honor, which is allegedly a comedy, as we discussed, but a drama.
Yeah.
You know, and then this movie, you know, that's a hell of a lineup of movies.
Yeah. But coming in 7 with $2.8 million on a $28 million budget is pretty rough.
Here's the question. If The Goonies was not in theaters when this came out, this does better, yes?
Probably, but not by much, right? I don't know.
I mean, I feel like if you're a kid and you get to pick when you're going to the movies, you're not picking this probably looks like it's for kids, but The Goonies looks like it's going to be more fun.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
If, like I just said, there's like a movie for everybody there. If you didn't have the kids movie, I think this probably does significantly better. But
so they should have probably held it, you think?
I don't know. I mean, close to release, they probably had no anticipation that The Goonies was going to be as big of a hit as it was.
That's the thing. The Goonies is an original movie. You can't cut, well, we're going to destroy The Goonies in its 3rd week. And unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
It fell 32% in its 2nd week, grossing $1.9 million. And was only in 750 theaters in its 3rd weekend, grossing $980,000. So less than $1 million in its 3rd week. It left theaters after only 5 weeks. So
rough.
pretty big bomb there. Reviews on Rotten Tomatoes is 58%, which is high, I think, when I start reading these reviews, because I couldn't find a lot of positive reviews about this one. I couldn't find a written Roger Ebert review, but they reviewed it on the Siskel and Ebert show. And Gene Siskel was talking about how when he goes to his grave, he's going to wish that he had his 2 hours back.
Oh my God.
Roger Ebert jokingly said to Siskel, you'd have 2 hours. You would have had 2 hours more happiness if it hadn't been for Return to Oz. It was not an upbeat children's film. That was all that I could get really from Roger. Didn't really care for it. Dolores Barclay of the Associated Press said, the new characters may not have the human qualities the others had, the souls and personalities. However, they are interesting enough and true to the tale spun by Brahm in Land of Oz and Ozama of Oz. Kind of a positive review. Again, Gene Siskel, not a fan. From the Chicago Tribune wrote, the bottom line on Return of Oz is this. Rarely has a movie been created that seems so pointed to frustrate the reasonable expectations of the audience. Not one lesson has been learned from the original 1939 Wizard of Oz, one of the great audience-pleasing films of all time, half a star.
So the fact that the movie didn't end with someone getting a heart and someone getting a brain.
I think the expectations, and he talks about, he says he's frustrated by what he deems reasonable expectations of the audience, is they wanted a true adaptation or true in feel sequel to The Wizard of Oz, which is a musical. It's like a uplifting musical, which is not the books. I don't think are at all. Like that was a change from the original book to the 39 movie. This is not that. So if you're going in expecting it to be light and music heavy and fun, I think it's safe to say, yeah, you're going to be disappointed by this because it's not The Wizard of Oz. It's so different from the original Wizard of Oz. But if you base it on its own merits, I feel like it's not the greatest movie of all time, but man, it does so many things right and so many things well. And to not go in and and be blown away by what it does visually is just, I think what that is the 39 movie in 50 years had passed by this time. You hold it in such high regard that nothing was going to be able to really capture that same sort of feel. So
yeah, if Siskel was like 45 when the original Wizard of Oz came out, would he have been like a huge fan of it? Or was he watching it like when he was a kid and has fondness for it? I mean, it is kind of a universally loved movie, but frankly, I'm glad that this wasn't a musical.
Yeah, me too.
If anything, it is, there's scary stuff in the original too with like the flying monkeys and everything. Mm-hmm. But I do think that the one tonally bizarre thing to me is that the first half hour of the movie is all about basically taking Dorothy to the torture clinic. That's weird and a little unusually dark for a children's movie to me. Like darkness in as much as like scary things happen in a fantasy world where we're on an adventure. Okay, fine. But the real world terror of like, nobody believes this little girl, so they're going to take her and zap the thoughts out of her head. It's just like fucking weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It does take a while to get to Oz, I feel like, too. Like, that would definitely be a shortcoming of the movie, is them just not believing and then torturing her from there.
Yeah, like, did we really need all of that stuff? Like, couldn't it have just been like one or two scenes of like, oh, there she goes telling those stories again. Yeah. And then
that Dorothy.
She finds the key and some other way gets swept to Oz. Yeah. Like finds the key and she's like, oh, what's this? And finds a lock, puts it in, walks through the door, and she's in Oz. Or she goes
a little
to sleep
more like
that
Alice
night
in
and
Wonderland,
she wakes up in Oz or something.
Yeah. Falls in a hole like Alice or something. Yeah.
Falls in a hole.
I don't know. Something. They didn't need to shock the little girl. Janet Maslin of the New York Times said, Return to Oz is the work of ingenious technicians who seem to either not know what gave the original film its magic or not to care. Instead of the Wizard of Oz sequel that the title suggests, Return to Oz is more of a grim variation. I don't know if that's a positive or negative review, but
all I'm getting from this is that apparently I have to watch the original because my life will never be the same after I've seen it.
The original's good. I don't want to take away anything from the original Wizard of Oz, but it's also of its time. It's made in 39 or whatever. I don't know. Paul Adanastasio of the Washington Post wrote, Return to Oz won't make anyone forget the Wizard of Oz or even the never-ending story. Then again, it's as good as an excuse as any for treating the family to popcorn. There's a positive review.
Well, the guy who has nothing to say, nothing to add to the conversation.
Hey, just go just have some popcorn.
His review is, it's a movie.
Yeah. So I've ordered the Leonard Maltin book. I haven't received it yet, but I did find his review on Entertainment Tonight. And he said this, boy, the Yellow Brick Road ain't what it used to be, and neither is Oz. Let's be fair and judge Return to Oz strictly on its merits. It's a bummer. So, not a fan.
As you started to read that review, for like the sixth person straight who's like, let me start my review of this film by making you recall the beloved classic that we all think is the best thing ever made. And I was just thinking to myself, like, would it not be possible to, like, this isn't really a direct sequel. It's made by a different studio with entirely different cast and crew, like 50 years later. Can we not just view this as its own thing?
Yeah.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Awards. Would you be surprised to hear that this was nominated the Academy Awards for Best Visual Effects?
I would not be surprised to hear that. Are you going to tell me that it wasn't?
It was nominated. You'll never guess what it lost to.
Prizzi's Honor.
It lost to Cocoon. Cocoon.
I mean, look, lots of movies in the 80s had cool effects, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I've seen Cocoon, but I generally remember the visuals of like the alien stuff at the end and all. But fuck off. Did you see the amount of not just like the quality, but the quantity of stuff in this movie?
Like 20
Jesus
minutes.
Christ.
Yeah, it's long.
I mean, it's a bad call, Ripley. It's a bad call.
As far as cultural impact, obviously didn't have a ton because
gave everyone who saw it nightmares.
Yeah, it was reviewed bombed, by the critics and didn't make any money in the theaters, but it's definitely become a cult classic. You'll definitely find the people and fans that love it. As far as notes, Disney had to pay a large fee to use the ruby slippers created for the 1939 film. We discussed that. Another carryover from the 1939 film was the framework in which real characters from Kansas reappeared in Oz, which Murch kept in order to keep harmony between the two films. They could have lost that. Like the doctor that was going to shock her was the Gnome King.
And the nurse, I'm assuming, was
she was
Mumba or whatever.
Yep. So that's there. Return to Oz is based on the second and third Oz books. Fairuza Balk's first screen role. Talked about that. And then this is interesting. Once shooting began, Murch began to fall behind schedule, and there were further pressures from the studio. 5 weeks into production, Disney was unhappy with the footage, but then mostly the Kansas scenes had been shot. However, Murch was looking unwell and was fired from the role without a protestation. Murch later recalled the experience saying, "Had I fought back, they might have said okay, but I couldn't fight back. I felt what the soul feels after it's left the body after a car accident. Pain, but tremendous relief." High-profile filmmakers, including George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, supported Murch in discussions with the studio, and Murch was reinstated and finished the film. Lucas guaranteed that he'd step in as a replacement if any further problems emerged. So,
Interesting.
Difficult to make. Didn't like it. Canned him. Friends said, "Hey, he can do it," and brought him back.
And then this was the only movie he ever made, he ever directed.
Yeah. And you can kind of understand why, right? Like the stress of making the movie.
It flops.
It flops hard. They fired in the middle of production. He didn't even protest the firing. It was just like, oh, whatever. I'm beat.
To him, it was a mercy killing.
Yeah, for sure. Let me go back to editing the sound for The Godfather and whatever, but thought that was pretty crazy. So yeah, troubled production and troubled box office and reviews. I'm going to tell you, man, this is a time where we say we missed it or not. I missed it. I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed the movie. It's not my favorite movie. It's not perfect. I don't want to say it's 5 stars, everyone needs to see it, but I enjoyed watching it way more than I anticipated, for sure. I thought a Return to Oz movie apparently it's supposed to suck. I guess I'll watch it. And then you watch it and it's like, holy shit, there's all these different visual effects that are just blowing me away. And I like characters like TikTok, and it's fun and it's kind of creepy and scary. Something I like about that. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I missed it. Ryan, how about you?
The question we ask here is pretty broad. We just say,
totally.
Did you miss it? And that can be interpreted in different ways. I kind of view it as just is this a movie that now, having seen it, it's I wish I had maybe seen earlier, or it's I'm glad that I had this opportunity to catch up with it because I otherwise might have missed out on it, and I see value and merit in having seen it and being able to like tell other people about it or just look back on the experience of having seen it. And again, I gotta say that like the story and whatnot really doesn't do a whole lot for me, but the sheer awe that I was in throughout watching it of the visual effects, it's worth me saying, yeah, I missed it. Like it's like you got to see it to believe it. And I'm so glad that I've finally seen it just for that reason. Like I can already think of people I'm going to say, hey, have you ever seen this? You need to watch it, even if you turn the sound off and skip the first half hour.
Yeah. Definitely skip the first hour. Like that's the worst part of the movie for sure. And like, yeah, the movie it's so simplistic. She gets captured, she escapes, they face the Gnome King. That's the entire movie.
Yeah, not a whole lot happens once they're there. There's like, she explores dilapidated Oz, meets TikTok, and they flee the Wheelers. They get caught. They have the sequence in the castle. Then they fly to the mountain, and that's the end. There's really not a whole lot to it.
Yeah. I like it. It's fun. It's silly. Again, I don't feel like I'm trying to give it the best review and say like, yes, everyone's wrong. It's 5 stars. I'm not saying that. Do I miss it? Did I miss it? Totally. Because I don't know. For me, it's like the whole like, did you miss it thing is like, did you enjoy watching this movie? And I totally did. Like it wasn't a struggle. I really enjoyed. I like Feruza Balk in it. I like the visual effects. I like what they did. I don't know. It's all positives for me. So yeah, give it a shot.
Just watch it for the fucking claymation. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
Yeah, 100%. We're on a streak, man. We're on a streak. 2 in a row.
You jinxed us.
I don't know. We're come back next week. We're watching a movie titled. It's spelled RAN, but it's not Ran. Is it?
I think it's Ron.
Ron?
I think it's Ron.
Okay. So we're watching the Kurosawa movie. I totally butchered that name.
You're going to have a fun time next episode, buddy.
It's late. I'm tired. We're watching the movie Ron, spelled RAN. And, I don't know. Just come back for it. I'm excited to see it. Have you seen this one? I think you have.
I haven't. Right? I've seen a bunch of Kurosawa's movies, but I have not seen this one yet.
Okay. Well, come back for it next week as we watch that movie that I'm definitely not going to mess up next time. All right. Until then, Jesse Munoz.
Ryan Miller.
Come back for Run or Ron.
Just say it like you're saying the name Ron, like a guy named Ron. Just pronounce it like that. Ron.
Like Ron? Okay.
Ron. Like a soft A. Not Ran. Ron.
Ron. Okay. Come back for Ron next week.